The sunnah is the wife has the right to live separately from her husband's family. And if the husband is not willing to provide that, then he needs to find someone that is willing to fit in that bracket. But for me personally,
it's almost like, you've got eyes on you. Every mistake, every cooking, how many times a day you cook, everything, you've just got like a spotlight on you.
They find it hard to be away from their parents. And sometimes I ask myself, do I have this negative, like, mummy's boy perception about this because of my own upbringing and because of this lack of culture and how distant family are? Maybe it's khair that they have this love and attachment.
You don't really know, you don't know each other too well. So you're getting to know him, he's getting to know you. And I want the freedom to just walk around without my hijab.
exactly.
Because my brother-in-laws, I have to, be modest from them.
Because, like, for my culture, Kurdish, Turkey, we don't, to us, we expected you get married, move out, you get your own place, yeah? I find it a little bit strange, the fact that newlyweds, bro, come on, bruv, you're living with your in-laws.
I want to be having private moments with my wife and worried about whoever, other in-laws, anyone else present in the house.
He's living with your family, the same for him. He has to walk on eggshells. He has to cover his modesty around your sisters.
They've lived with their in-laws. It has really caused a lot of problems from day one. And they do not have that sense of deen and taking on that daughter-in-law as their own daughter, unfortunately.
I feel like this was kind of a history class instead of what the actual topic is. Should newlyweds live with their in-laws? That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about culture, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. That is so irrelevant.
That's how it started.
But that's not the point of the topic.
Don't miss this amazing opportunity from Nature's Blends to get your finest premium black seed oil and shilajit to get that energy levels back up. Check them out now.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters and dear friends. Hope you guys are well, inshallah. Welcome to another episode of The Bitter Truth, inshallah. It's been a mad day, anyways. Before I start, I want to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, the most just. All praises, glory and gratitude belong to Him. And also I want to thank the people, Abdul Kareem, my brother, Anas, and many other team members who have made this happen. And I want to thank the co-producer, which is my wife, who helps me decide these topics as we have heated debates at home. Anyways, so moving swiftly on. Buzzers.
Talking about yourself, Ali.
So the buzzers. So the buzzers, if you disagree with someone, so let's say the sister's speaking and you disagree, you press it, you have 1.5 minutes, no one can disturb you, yeah? Okay, so you have a chance only once to press it. And that's it, let's get straight into it. This is a phenomenon that happens in the Asian community. You are Pakistani yourself, if I'm not mistaken, Zishan. It's a big problem in your subcontinent. Anyways, should new brides live with in-laws? Now, I hear these issues a lot. Sometimes sisters message and say, you know what, brother, my mother-in-law, father-in-law is treating me like this or treating me like that. I want to know myself. Please, how many Asians here? Like 1, 2, Pakistani?
Yeah.
Anyways, sister, where you from?
Bengali.
Pakistani?
Afghani.
Oh, Afghani. Okay, interesting. Okay, no problem. So can you please tell us, yeah, because I really want to know, because like for my culture, Kurdish, Turkey, we don't, to us, we expected you get married, move out, you get your own place, yeah? I find it a little bit strange, the fact that newlyweds, bro, come on, bruv, you're living with your in-laws. So I'm going to open the discussion, inshallah. Do you think that is correct? Let's start with the sisters. And before they maybe introduce yourself, we've got a new sister Nazneen.
Nazneen. Yeah.
Okay, may Allah bless you, my dear sister. Thanks for coming. Please tell us a bit about yourself, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nazneen. I am currently a student, athlete, and I just create content part-time.
Inshallah, may Allah bless you, my dear sister. Sister Mahnur is becoming a regular and she's with her husband. May Allah bless them, preserve their marriage, inshallah. Mustafa. How long have you guys been married?
So coming up to 3.5 years now.
Can you give it close to the mic, yeah? So
Yeah, coming up to 3.5 years now.
May Allah preserve you guys, inshallah. And inshallah, children and alhamdulillah. May Allah
Yeah,
bless
we've
you guys.
got 2.
Alhamdulillah.
2 under 2.
May Allah bless you. This is what we want to see. More marriages, stable marriages. Alhamdulillah. May Allah preserve you guys. So that you're here with your dear wife,
Yes.
Sister Mahnur. And maybe you can tell a bit about yourself, sister.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. So my name is Mahnur. I'm currently studying a Bachelor's of Science degree in Psychology. As my husband mentioned, we've got 2 kids under 2, alhamdulillah. I also teach part-time the Arabic language, Quran and Islamic studies 2 children ages 7 to 18. And I also do a weekly class on Zoom at the Alberta Institute where I mentor and discuss various topics surrounding mental health from an Islamic and secular perspective.
May Allah bless you, inshallah. Sister Fahima needs no introduction. She's a regular here. So neither does Dishan, is a regular as well. Sister Suad, may Allah bless her, is quite new. So, Sister Suad, maybe tell a bit about yourself.
So my name is Suad. I'm 35, divorced. I have a daughter who's 4 years old, alhamdulillah. I work in the corporate world, so I work in compliance, and alhamdulillah, you know, it's it's not easy juggling motherhood and full-time work, but alhamdulillah, you know, and I'm just here to share my views on what it's like, both sides.
Yes, may Allah bless Sister Suad as well. MashaAllah, she speaks a lot of facts, truths. We actually invited her specifically, but she actually applied beforehand. May Allah bless her. She was an ex-feminist. Well, I mean, yani,
I dibbled and dabbled, you know,
Yes.
just a tad, but
Yes.
alhamdulillah, you know, I always had my iman and my deen, but
yes,
unfortunately, yes.
yes. But no, they actually invited us. But but the thing is, it's interesting because may Allah bless you. We need more sisters like you with your mentality to exist, which we're going to come to later. But Brother Jibril is new. Inshallah, just tell a bit about yourself.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name's Jibril. I'm a revert to Islam. Is this close enough to the mic? I'm a revert to Islam. I've been a Muslim for a little over 12 years. I do counselling through Ikhlas Counselling, which I've been doing for about 5 years now, alhamdulillah. I also work in the construction industry. I design clothes and I newly deal with CMOS.
May Allah bless you. Okay, so let's start with the topic, inshallah, like I said, which is, do you guys agree that brides should live, new brides, or bride for the matter, should live with in-laws?
When you mean live with in-laws, do you mean like...
I'm so sorry. I forgot to, your husband. Forgive me. Aki, tell us a bit about yourself. Sorry, Aki, sorry. Remind me.
Is this close enough to the mic?
Yes, Aki.
I'm Mustafa. I'm here with my wife. Alhamdulillah, we got married 3.5 years ago. We have 2 daughters under 2. And currently I work as an auditor in one of the big 4 firms, specializing in financial services. And in my free time, I help, mentor graduates land their first role in professional services. And I also help, in my personal time with friends who are looking to get married and also who are going through issues in their marriage as well.
May Allah bless you, Aki. May Allah preserve you. Barakallahu feek. Yes, sister, you saying so?
No, I was just I wanted to clarify the question a bit. When you mean live with them, do you mean like in the same house where you share all the common spaces, or like on 2 different floors within the same house?
Tell me your perspective on both. So let's talk about one where it's you're sharing everything, and one you have your some sort of own space.
Okay, so I just want to start by saying that obviously not this, there's no like one size fit all situation for marriages. Like every marriage and every in-laws are different, and your understanding that develops with them develops over time. So it could be quite detrimental in the beginning, especially when you're new to that family, you don't know their values, you don't know how they function around the house. So over time, obviously, if you develop that understanding with them, then you and your husband can come to terms that, okay, if need be, we can live with them or take care of them. But I think it's also a difference when they come live with you versus when you go live with them, because when they come and living with you, they're living under your terms and you don't lose your independence because they kind of fit in your lifestyle, versus when you go live with them, it's like you're adjusting your life, in certain dynamics to cater to their lifestyle. And then I think another thing is that there's always going to be that judgment from them, unfortunately, whether it's direct or indirect, because then you people, once again, you don't really know about each other, do you? So, so I think that these are some things to take in consideration if you consider moving, and obviously it depends as well, as I said that.
Yeah, just on the also, I want to say, I think it's really important to consider why you're actually living with the in-laws. So some people that have in the Asian community, they have a joint family system. So growing up, it's just expected that once they get married, their wife is going to come and live in the same household as them. But some of my friends, what they do is they live with their wife comes to live in their household, but only to the extent where they're able to save up in order to move out and either rent or buy their own property. So I think it's really important to be clear as to why you're living with in-laws. It might not be that it's for the foreseeable future. It could be for the short term instead of the long term. So yeah, that's I think
But the
key
thing
point.
is, in the Asian culture, it's not short term. It's quite
it's
long term.
So this is something that's important to clarify.
Long-term thing. So
Yeah.
I mean, Sister Nazneen,
Yeah.
would you? I mean, if you got newly married, would you feel comfortable living with your in-laws, or would you want like your own space with your husband?
So firstly, when you get married to someone, you're experiencing something new with them. It's supposed to be something blessed, sacred, and naturally speaking, you would want to have that private, intimate moment with your husband or your wife. Personally, for me, from the get-go, I will tell my to-be husband, I want to live us two separate from your family. Is that what you want? Yes or no? If he says no, then alhamdulillah, have a good day. You go find a wife that would be willing to live with your family. But for me personally, I'm Bengali and I sit in that culture where most newlyweds live with their in-laws. I don't agree. It's not about culture. We're talking about Islam. We're talking about the hadith. We're talking about the sunnah. The sunnah is the wife has the right to live separately from her husband's family. And if the husband is not willing to provide that or, work with that, then he needs to find someone that is willing to fit in that bracket. But for me personally, why try fix something that's not broken? It's just black and white, yes or no. I feel like overcomplicating the question is just unnecessary. So that's just where I stand on that.
Interesting, straight to the point. May Allah bless you, Sister Nazneen. An interesting perspective. She's straight to the point, not messing around. That yes, like I mean, is there anything from the Quran and Sunnah to say that she has to live with the parents? I don't think so, from what I know. Sister Swad, you're from a Somali background. How is it in your culture? Like, for example, if you was asked to stay with your in-laws, how is it with the Somali culture?
They can't get rid of you quick enough,
Oh,
to be
really?
honest.
Okay.
They want you out ASAP, Rocky.
Okay.
But so when I got married, it was so my ex and I, we had the conversation and I said that I wanted to have my own space. The option was there to move in with my in-laws, but I wouldn't, because look, when you're new, you're starting to get to know each other and you don't want to do that in a room full of people, particularly his family, who would, and I'm not saying this is what my ex family it did, but my ex's family, what they did, but it's almost like you've got eyes on you, every mistake, every cooking, if how many times a day you cook, everything, you've just got like a spotlight on you. Whereas if you've got your own space, you can get to know each other and learn more about each other, and you can make your mistakes and have your private arguments, because in the beginning that's when you have a lot of the clashes. You don't really know, you don't know each other too well, so you're getting to know him, he's getting to know you, and I want the freedom to just walk around without my hijab, because my brother-in-laws, I have to be modest from them, and of course my father-in-law I won't have to, but using the toilet when I'm showering, I have to make sure there's nobody around, so at least having that space of mine for me and my husband to truly get to know each other, and I think that would give you the best foot forward in your marriage.
Could I just also add to what the sister has said? I totally agree with everything you said, and I also want to mention that just because I am opposed to living with my husband's family, that doesn't mean I'm not also opposed to, maybe staying a night over, spending time with his family, building that connection. Of course, I have no problem with doing that. And what you said about walking around without the hijab on, being able to shower without thinking, did I lock the door? Is there anyone outside? Oh no, I forgot my towel. I can't go get out. I can't. Like these little small things will catch up to you in the long term. Yeah. And that's when those clashes will come with you and your husband. When the honeymoon phase is over, your husband is going to be like, why are you acting like this? This is not the woman I married. Yeah. But where's my right? Where's my privacy? Yeah. Where's my...
When you're at his family's house, you're going to kind of keep a lot in.
Yeah, my guard is up. My guard is up because I don't want to...
You're not going to be yourself.
I don't want to
yourself.
Yeah, I don't want to give the wrong impression to his family. At the end of the day, I care about him and his family. Yeah. And I want to be mindful as well.
Just to say, on the other side, if he's living with your family, the same for him. He has to walk on eggshells. He has to cover his modesty around your sisters, and he's not comfortable. So again, it's both, in-laws from her side or his side. I feel and I think is detrimental to newlyweds.
Yeah, and we had a discussion. We had a topic called should in-laws get involved in marital disputes. In this very instance, they are in it. I mean, you can't get away with it.
You can't.
And I always say that keep it away, like arguments away from your in-laws, because at the end of the day, it's going to be toxic. We discussed this on one of the episodes we released. Because if you have an argument and then you go and tell, like, I make it a principle, like me and my wife. My mum, I have, like, me and my wife will have arguments. It's normal, by the way, guys. Hello, yes. Marriage, it's normal. You have fights, arguments, normal.
I'd worry if you didn't argue.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
You should be worried if you don't
Yeah.
argue, yeah? Okay, that's ajib, that's weird.
Yeah.
So these arguments happen, and my mum will always come to me, tell me what happened, tell me. I go, Mum, no. It's nothing, look, you don't need to know. Why? Okay, imagine I come and say to Mum, okay, Mum, this happened. She might have a resentment towards my wife.
She will.
And the vice versa. If my wife went and said, he did this and this and this, yeah, okay. And we make up. And when we make up, you guys got the parents are going to be the one that's going to be bad. We're going to say, don't get involved. So it's better they're not involved. But in this very instance, Zishan, maybe Jibril as well, that, I mean, what would you guys say? Because at the end of the day, now they're involved, bro. Do you not think it's detrimental to the marriage? And I know there are situations, where there's exceptions. So if the husband, for example, his mom has nowhere to go, these are exceptions, or vice versa. She has a father. And if she gets married, there's no one to look after him. 100%. Of course, we're not talking about these instances where these things can happen. But do you not believe, Zishan or Jibril, that this is detrimental to the marriage, that everything is going on in front of their very eyes?
Well, first of all, I think that whether the couple are living amongst in-laws or not, I think it very much, if it's in a man or a woman's character to expose the shortcomings of their spouse, regardless of if the in-laws are living with them or not, they will come to know about it. And sometimes, if the in-laws aren't present in the home to see the reality of what's taking place in the home, and one, let it be, whether it be the son or whether it be the daughter, is going to her parents to complain to those who are outside of the home. So let's say, for example, a sister's moved in with her husband and her parents are obviously at their home. And she calls complaining about, my husband did this, my husband did that. If they're not present in the home and seeing what's taking place on a daily basis, then they can have a very distorted understanding of the reality of what's taking place. So sometimes it can actually be good for the parents to be present in the home because they see the character and the behavior of the wife, and they also see the character and behavior of the husband. So there can be benefits when there are family disputes or dispute between husband and wife, and there are wise in-laws present in the home to actually deal with it in a good manner. I think the problem arises when you have biased in-laws, unjust in-laws, unwise in-laws who will witness their own child oppressing their spouse, but because it's their child, they'll defend them. And I'm familiar with a situation where this was actually causing severe problems in the marriage. And when I say this, I'm referring to one of the spouses behaving in a not so good manner to the other spouse. Let me be a little bit clearer. The son is not behaving well to his wife, but the wife lives with her mother-in-law and her husband. But the mother-in-law is defending her son, even when he's clearly in the wrong. And this causes friction because not only does it not hold the son accountable, but it also makes the daughter-in-law feel oppressed, unloved. She has to be around these people every single day. And it was to such an extent that I actually had a conversation with the brother, and he said that this is a genuine problem. He actually acknowledged the fact that his mother's behavior was a problem in their marriage. It would have been better if she actually held him accountable. You know, so it really depends on the circumstances. There's so many nuances and so many different avenues. But when it comes to the nature of marriage, there's so many, you really need an in-depth understanding of what's actually taking place. But of course, if you're having issues and the in-laws are in the home, it's very hard to avoid. Of course, they're going to hear shouting, they're going to hear screaming, they're going to see people's faces are happy or upset. So it's difficult to avoid. But again, it all depends on the in-laws.
Do you think in a nutshell, generally, is it good or bad? Do you like to do?
Are we talking in regards to generally or with regards to arguments?
Like generally, to live with the in-laws, do you not think sabotages the marriage?
Okay, well, obviously, as a revert, it's not our custom. It's not our custom. My preference is to have privacy. My preference is to be able to walk around as freely as I want. I don't want to be having private moments with my wife and worried about my whoever, other in-laws, anyone else present in the house. That's very uncomfortable and just something that I can never really wrap my head around. Sometimes if I pluck up the courage, I might ask some of my Asian companions how they deal with that. Because I really can't understand it. But at the same time as well, I also think that there's a lot of barakah and khair in it. Yeah. I know people who have very good relationships with their in-laws. Their in-laws love them. They love their in-laws. And of course, they will take time, perhaps book a hotel, perhaps go away for a period of time and then come back. So if they need moments of privacy, if they have the means, they have the provision, then they can always get time away from their in-laws. Of course, practically you're not every week going to book somewhere and go away. This isn't real life. But yeah, I'm familiar with many instances where living with the in-laws is an enjoyable experience for both.
Okay, interesting perspective. Zishan, what do you have to say?
First of all, mashallah, very
because now
very
you have a
balanced,
conflict of interest. Yeah.
very balanced answer.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, Zishan. I'm sure it
A
was.
view that's not discussed as much today, and I like the way you kind of presented that, because it depends on the in-laws, depends on the spouses themselves. Generally speaking, however, I think with the ulama that I've kind of come across, they actually recommend you staying and living separately to your in-laws. Reason being because, I mean, if you look at the nature of the way a marriage is, it's two people. Generally they're young, I mean, generally, and they're unfamiliar with a lot of things. They're going to be making mistakes, and unfortunately and sadly, when other people are involved, now when the husband and the wife they reconcile, now you have to reconcile with the other people. They're going to be angry, then you have to deal with that aspect as well. So in one argument, instead of two people, there's like 3-4 people, and unfortunately some people, they remember certain things, and over time things become, poison starts building up and resentment starts building up. And generally speaking, this has happened, and that's why the imam, the local imam, he says as well, if you want to have that loving relationship with your son, send him away, like let him have his own place. That way, that absence makes the heart grow fonder. But if you're there in each other's face all the time, and you know there's conflict of understanding and stuff like that, it's actually unnecessarily messy. Now the thing is, you said Asian community. Yeah.
Let me say that again. The Asian community.
Yeah.
Do you have a problem with it?
It seems like you do. So let's have a bit of a history lesson here,
Nah.
Ali. Yeah.
Yes, please.
You ready for the history lesson?
I'm ready.
Yeah. So the Asian community comprises of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Thank you.
Yeah. So they used to live in one place called Hindustan. Yeah. It was actually one place.
The India today.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Not the India today. It's India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Yeah. You follow me so far, Ali?
Very closely.
So at that time, the thing is, we have, even in terms of when we get married, we have a lot of kind of Indian customs that have seeped in. Yeah, and they have been kind of influential in certain things. So that's one aspect. The other thing, Ali, is that we were colonized by the British for about 200 years. Yeah, whilst we were very economically well off, however, during the British's reign, we actually were not. It was incredibly difficult. So let's just say you had a plot of land, and in that plot of land, you would, get all your relatives kind of in there. It wouldn't be feasible. It wouldn't be feasible for you to buy loads of land and kind of spread everything. So back in the days when I would go to Pakistan, I would actually see that, yes, in one house you have, the people that have got married. But now in the villages, I'm seeing now that people are becoming more financially okay. They are now, like the sister said, they are now actually creating stories now. So on the one level, you've got the parents. On the other level, you've got the first family. That's why that question was actually a very good question, because when you say that this is very prevalent amongst the Asians, are you talking about now, or are you talking about in the past, or are you talking about some delusion that you've concocted in your head?
I like that.
It's
I'm
still
talking about now.
You're talking about.
It's still now.
Sister Fahima, can you speak to him, please?
Yeah,
and
no,
tell him?
absolutely. I'm waiting for this
Yeah,
because
yeah,
a lot of you
yeah.
guys have been really, really
Yeah.
calm
Yeah, you listen
and
to her, yeah?
very. I want to talk about the reality because I deal with hundreds of families across the globe and from different backgrounds. And it does stem from the South Asian background where they are a lot of problems when they do live with their in-laws. And they are very unfairly unjust to the daughter-in-laws in particular. And most of the time, it is the women that moves in with the in-laws. So I've had
What
first-hand.
capacity do they come to you? Like counselor or?
Yes,
Okay, as a counselor, yeah.
yes.
So it.
Coaching.
Yeah, so it makes sense that people with issues will go to a counselor.
But
And
I
in-
also get recommendation from the scholars because they've had divorces and they've had issues. They go to the scholar, they can't sort it out, and then the scholar comes to me to sort of say, go and deal with, see Fahima for the actual reconciliation or the issues that, has been dissolved in the marriage and how to go afterwards. And most of it comes from the fact that if they've lived with their in-laws, it has really caused a lot of problems from day one. And they do not have that sense of deen and taking on that daughter-in-law as their own daughter, unfortunately, in Muslim homes, because it is more cultural than it is in those sort of particular backgrounds, which I have first-hand experience of listening to, that it's more about the culture than it is the religion.
yeah, so like I said, I mean, I already talked about the
And it
history.
is in the UK and the Western world as well, not just from the villages that you're talking about.
Right.
It's happening currently.
Right. So now the question arises that how is it happening in the UK? So the people that have actually come and that have migrated, the people that have migrated, they've migrated because generally speaking, they have actually not been financially well off there. So it's these same individuals with these same practices that have now migrated, that have come here. Just because
I don't
you're
think it's financial. I think it's more
no,
mindset.
Statistically speaking, the people that have migrated to the UK that are from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh are those that were actually not well off over there. They've come here for a better life.
And they've got a better life and they're still living the old life.
Yeah, but that's besides the point. The point is that it's disadvantaged people that have come, and over there, when they were disadvantaged, this culture was prevalent. So they've somehow imported that culture here, and they are doing that, and slowly, they are now becoming aware that it's actually not really needed. Yeah, it's actually counterproductive. But to deny or to say that it's there's no real background, there is a background, and the background comes from people at that time that it was actually not feasible for them to be buying loads of plots of land and separating and scattering the family. Now, the way things are happening over there, and I've seen it myself, it is the fact that they are now doing that because they are able to. It's more easier to buy land, it's more easier to build, and that's why the kind of perceptions and views are now changing.
I don't know where it's changing because a lot of the time, again, it's not just about the finance. They just expect their sons to be living in the house with them and bring the daughter-in-law in there.
It's changing. I mean, I go there and I'm kind of well acquainted with the people that are there as well. No, you don't have to stop straight away.
Yeah, you can just finish your sentence. Yeah, finish your sentence.
Yeah. So I lost my train of thought.
You said you went to Pakistan and you've seen it.
Yeah. So you're saying where? I mean, from the people that are there, from observing it myself, from going to villages and seeing people kind of separating their families, because it actually doesn't work. Like when there's an imperative and you're realizing that it actually, that you can't move out. It's not actually financially possible. You've been colonized, so you have to kind of make do. Then you do. It's like in war, and you're given rationed food. However, after war finishes, then it's not practical to carry that rationing mentality on when you can change that behavior. So it's the same case now when people are now coming and when people are seeing that, like you said, cases are coming to you, and that's why it's not working out. Why? Because that moment or that time that we were colonized, that we had an imperative to kind of survive in that time, it's no longer needed now, and that's why there has become a shift.
The older generation still feels that way.
It does, but the youngsters, like the sister has said as well, they've made it clear in their expectation that they don't. Yeah, they don't want to do that.
Okay, let's go to Sister Nazmin.
Can I just say?
You've got 1.5 minutes.
Can I just say? I feel like we're kind of going away from the actual topic of this conversation. I feel like this was kind of a history class instead of what the actual topic is. Should newlyweds live with their in-laws? That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about culture, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. That is so irrelevant.
That's how it started.
But that's not the point of the topic. that's not the point. We're in a room full of different cultures and different backgrounds, but the point stands is that should newlyweds live with their in-laws? Personally, no. You may think differently because of your culture and the way you were raised and the history and so on and so forth. But I feel like what sister over here said about, how mothers treat their sons and what their expectations have. Yes, that's very prevalent. But the question is, should newlyweds live with their in-laws? That's it. That's why I interrupted, just so we can mediate the conversation back to what the topic is.
You've got 30 seconds, Karen.
That's it. I'm done.
Yes. So the reason I brought up the Asian point was because
There's
you
a reason.
categorically said Asians, and it was repeated like 2-3 times. It's not like there does need to be a historical narrative, because if you're asking it's present in the Asian community, why? Then you have to give a reason, and if the reason is historical, then you need to provide a historical thing and a historical narrative. And before the historical narrative, I gave a categorical answer about what scholars recommend and what my opinion is regarding the matter. So both things were covered.
What's your name, sisters?
Nazneen.
What Nazneen mentioned at the beginning was really and truly probably one of the most important points, and it's about having a very transparent, clear dialogue in the beginning. There's a brother that I train with at grappling, and I see his lifestyle. He travels a lot, and I assumed that he wasn't married because of this. And he said, I'm married, bro. I've been married for 2 years. And I was like, wow, bro, you're always, here, there, going to Manchester to watch this calisthenics competition and this, that, and the other. And he said, bro, before I got married, I had a clear conversation with my wife that this is how I want to live and this is how I want things to be. And if she agreed with it, fine. And if she didn't, no problem. If you have the communication early and you let your spouse know, I'm not interested in marrying you if you don't have a place for us by yourself, then this will save a lot of problems. But I've had a number of sessions with clients where they're having issues in the home due to in-laws. And I think that we would all probably agree that in most cases, living with in-laws is much more complicated and problematic than living with just you and your spouse. There's a lot more juggling, a lot more plates to juggle or spin, as they say. So, that's a reality that we can't escape. But if you're transparent and you're clear from the beginning, and that can go in 2 different ways, I'll explain. If you say what Sister Nazneen will say, for example, and made it clear from the beginning, she will save herself hassle because she'll be marrying someone who's already got a place. She'll be making sure that's known. However, there are sisters who agree to living with their in-laws, and then after some time, there are some trials, some tests, and now they're forcing their husband and they're putting conditions on their husband, which they Islamically have, but they're putting pressure on him to now be able to provide a place. Now, the brother was mentioning about back home and about means. The cost of living in this country, and particularly in this city, has gone through the roof. So it's very difficult for brothers. I don't know if you guys have seen what the rent market's like, but it's crazy. So for some brothers, it's actually going to damage their finances greatly to go and rent somewhere. And were they to live with the in-laws, the husband and wife can potentially have a much better quality of life.
Depending.
Of course, depending on the
break that
circumstances around the home. But they'll have more disposable income to be able to perhaps travel more or to be able to go out more and enjoy things with each other. So there's multiple ways of
if the in-laws don't interfere.
I've heard of stories where the wife would be like, I would go work, earn extra, and let's get our own place.
Exactly.
And I've seen this happen.
Yeah.
I know
Even
a
if it's
brother,
one room.
literally, she was like, I would contribute, let's bounce.
Yeah.
I've seen that. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any more things to say about it.
The brother made an excellent point. He said,
Can I just quickly finish one thing quickly, because I need to make this point, but I actually lost track slightly. If a sister does agree with her husband or doesn't make any issue with living with in-laws, then I really do feel that it's almost to an extent upon her to be patient with the situation. She should certainly express herself and say that, listen, look, I thought I'd be able to handle this, but it's actually difficult. Like, I think that we need to get our own place, and then be patient with that transition and be patient with, because you have to remember the husband probably wants to live by himself with his wife anyway. you understand? But then I've noticed that in the Asian community, there's a lot of mummies boys, to be honest with you, really and truly.
They
I
want
don't
to have
be
it both.
offensive. I don't want to be offensive. I tried to slow it down, but I just said, let me just say it because I'll take too long. You know, they find it hard to be away from their parents. And sometimes I ask myself, do I have this negative, like, mummy's boy perception about this because of my own upbringing and because of this lack of culture and how distant family are? Maybe it's khair that they have this love and attachment, or maybe it goes a little bit too far. But the husband, in most instances, he probably really wants to be alone with his wife, but then he's also going to have pressure from his parents about leaving them. And then there's the Islamic perspective on taking care of your parents and being dutiful to your parents and things of that nature. So there's a lot of pressure on the husband's side that the wife needs to empathize with and have patience with when it comes to this.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, man. You know, it's a fine balance, because at the end of the day, I think it's a beautiful thing what what you guys have in your culture, which is that, you know, bond with the family. And I think everyone has it to that level. And of course, there's extremes of mummy's boys, etc.
But this thing about mummies boys, though, I don't think it's
we can't
mummies.
generalize. We can't say
No. It's actually not.
can't.
It's actually not mummies boys. It's the way obedience is seen in the Asian culture, and if a person is kind of moving out, is that seen as being disrespectful or this or that? It's not. Oh, the person can't survive without the mum or this or that. No, it's actually that. Okay, if I move, will I be called a bad son? How will it be seen? Yeah, it's that stigma and stuff like that. And again, it's stuff that we're shirking off because it is affecting marital relationships, and that's actually undeniable. Why? Because of the nature, because of the way things have become now. Back in the days, you know, a village was a village. Now the whole world has become a global village. Even in the villages, you're seeing programs and shows and stuff like that, so people are consuming the same content. It's actually very difficult for you to consume that content and still be okay with living a traditional life. So we have to kind of understand that the times that we're in now, you know, and the content that we're consuming, it's actually very difficult for us to kind of maintain that traditional, old school form of living. But the brother did say something fantastic, which is that if you are to kind of meet in the middle and be balanced, you can say that, okay, I'm not financially strong, but if we stay with the in-laws for a short period of time, that we can stand on our feet, and then we can do that. There does need to be some understanding. Some people go too much on one extreme and say, no, totally not. Some people say, no, we will, and we'll, you know, it'll be right. The rooms will be next to each other and this and that. There needs to be space. And like the people were saying, to kind of walk around freely, you know, not worry about, you know, I have to cover myself. I mean, living with a brother-in-law is ridiculous, to be honest. I think that's going too far.
There's a hadith of the Prophet.
I mean, even
that,
parda and stuff like that. I mean, you're supposed to, you should want to see your wife, you know, in a certain way. And
good. Not only that, but the Prophet said the brother-in-law is like death.
And most kind of haram relationships take place with the people that kind of frequent the home and stuff like that.
Well, actually,
your wife. Yes, sister Mahmoud, you got 1.5 minutes. We're gonna wrap up, inshallah. Move to our next topic, inshallah, very soon. So yeah, you got 1.5 minutes now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I agree with Brother Zishan about everything he said, but because I have experienced it myself firsthand living with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, once again, I think it's all about communication and management. And it's definitely different to when you're living with the parent-in-laws, because that they're elder than you, they have, you know, that respect is like expected from you. But if you're living with someone with your sister-in-law, you have that communication and you can make it work out for like a short term, especially. I think it's not that much of an issue, to be honest. And also, I was going to say, just interlinking with this topic about in-laws, I think the son has a very integral part in, you know, that communication, that understanding that happens. When you marry a girl, obviously she has no idea about your family. So you're the one who's responsible to teach her about your family, tell her what your mum likes, tell her what your dad likes, tell her what they expect of you as a couple, or what the expectations are about you. And yes, I think that becomes an issue. Also, I think another thing is that before sons are married, they're really close to their parents. And then all of a sudden they get married and then they're distant. And then the parents think, oh, wait a minute, especially now, you know, Asian cultures. It's because of her, because she polluted her, you know, she brainwashed her, and that's not fair, and that's assumption. And assumption is the mother of all illness, so we should, you know, it's not a good trait, so we should be very aware of that.
7 seconds.
Let me.
Go on, let's hear your wife. Go on.
No, I agree with that. I was going to say.
7 seconds.
Let me clarify my
7
position.
seconds. She got 7 seconds.
I was saying, let me clarify.
Fine, you can take it.
I was saying, let me clarify my position. And the question is, should newlyweds live with their in-laws? My personal answer is ideally no, especially for the short term.
No, did you say?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think no, because it's really important, especially in that newly married phase where you're literally just getting to know each other. It's really important to be alone together in that time, because in my personal experience, from talking to friends who've gone through the same thing, the main issue comes with expectations and judgments from the parents-in-laws who have expectations of what they expect from the wife who's just come into the family, and that's where the real issue comes in. You as a newlywed couple have you're sort of still figuring out your expectations of what you want from your husband and your wife, and then there's a third party that comes along and says, your wife should be doing this, or you should be doing this as a husband, or you shouldn't let your wife do this or do that, and that causes a huge issue, because now you're doubting yourself and thinking, is my wife doing this wrong, or what's going on? And when you have that influence from outside, that's where I've seen the most issue comes from.
I agree, guys. I'm going to wrap you up, inshallah. And I think what's important as well, like we mentioned, some key factors is that there is no evidence from the Quran and Sunnah to stipulate on the wife that she has to live with in-laws. Let's make that very categorically clear. And in the show, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to finish this and then come to you. The bitter truth of the matter is that, and we as men, we will call that out. We're not here to favor. It's a haqq. It's the haqq. It's as simple as that. But I believe both should have mercy and rahmah towards each other. That maybe if the husband has got a father or a mother or vice versa, there should be some kind of mercy. It shouldn't be cutthroat like. And this is one of the things that we see. And the Prophet ﷺ said, may his face be rubbed in dirt. May his face be rubbed in dirt. And he repeated, said, may his face be rubbed in dirt for the one whose parents reach old age and they abandon them. And then imagine the wife or the husband asking the other one to, I don't care, I don't want to know. I don't think anyone's that merciless. I don't think anyone's saying that here. We're just saying in general, it can be detrimental, but we should understand each other, have mercy. And imagine if that was your family. Imagine your husband saying to you, no, your dad, I don't care. So imagine that as well, inshallah. We'll finish off with Zishan, last point.
Yeah, sometimes the Arab and the Asian culture seems very synonymous with the religion, but it's actually not necessarily religion per se. And this could be maybe because Asians were the first kind of spread religion here in the UK, and they get a bad rep. But the thing is that regardless of whatever culture you're from, if you lack religion, then that's going to be a problem. And whatever culture you are, whatever background, we need religion for grounding. And you can be of a certain culture, as long as you've got religion there as well to tame that culture, then you're going to be fine. However, you can be of a certain culture, but if the religion is less and you don't fear Allah, then that's going to be a problem. And we do see cases in which, and I hope we did get that across, but in case we didn't, some people are living in oppressive relationships. They're literally being oppressed, and they are, I would even say in some regards, borderline abusive relationships as well. Because somebody is vulnerable, they've gone there, and maybe they might not be able to communicate properly, and they're being dominated by multiple family members. So in that regard, like Sister Fahima said, there's help. If you are in that situation, please do reach out and do kind of consult your local imam. You can get his number from, just nowadays you can just Google the masjid and then the numbers will come up. You can speak to somebody, but speak to somebody that can kind of help you and support you, not somebody that's just going to tell you, oh, do this, you cut this or finish this or do that. Properly. Somebody that's going to give you practical solutions, like the imams send certain clientele to sister as well.
Inshallah, may Allah bless you guys, inshallah, our honorable sisters and brothers. Don't forget our sponsor, Nature's Blends, inshallah, Shilajit, black seed oil, capsule versions, inshallah, brothers and sisters. Makes the most out of it, inshallah. May Allah bless them because they help this podcast happen. Takes a lot of effort, time, even money. So may Allah bless them for sponsoring this. Till next time from the Bitter Truth Show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.